And by the way, for the BJP to allege that he was trying to allow foreign powers to intervene, I have only one question to ask them. That, when Narendra Modi openly talked about Ab ki baar Trump Sarkar, literally batting, if not campaigning for Donald Trump, during a time when the election cycle was on for the presidential elections in the US, if that was not foreign intervention, in my opinion, the ultimate diplomatic embarrassment, frankly, an international faux pas in terms of policy, if that was not foreign intervention, what is?
Hi, you're watching Hindustan Times in Focus. And today we are joined by Sanjay Jha, a political commentator, and as per his own Twitter bio, a congressee by DNA. Welcome, Sanjay, to the show. Sanjay, we are talking about the standoff over Rahul Gandhi's Cambridge speech, which is actually showing no signs of abating. There's chaos in the parliament. Both houses were adjourned for the second consecutive day. On Friday, there was sloganeering from the BJP in the House demanding that Rahul Gandhi apologize for his remarks in London. How do you respond to this, to the government demanding an apology from Rahul Gandhi for his remarks?
Thank you very much for inviting me for the show to begin with. I think the complete bedlam, the pandemonium, the chaos that I can see happening all over the country, raised by the BJP on Rahul Gandhi's statements in London, actually completely justifies exactly what he said there, which is that Indian democracy is so fragile and frail that you cannot have a freewheeling conversation. And in my opinion, frankly, this is a travesty of Indian democracy. Frankly speaking, everything that he said in London, he's been saying in India, right through the Bharat Jodo Yatra, right since 2014. The entire opposition, by the way, has been speaking the same language, and correctly so, in my opinion. 95% of the cases registered against, opposition leaders as compared to the BJP by the ED and CBI is proof of how you have an authoritarian regime with a very autocratic predilection, which is going after political vendetta and opposition parties with vengeance. And you have a situation in India today where all institutions are fragile. So I do believe that the BJP, in trying to make all these, I consider them as preposterous allegations against Rahul Gandhi, might end up shooting its own, committing its own harakiri, in the process. But we'll have to wait and see how it goes on. But it's a
I, you know,
serious and criminal wastage of parliamentary time.
I just want to come back to you with a very simple point, which is you've said that he's been making the same points in India as he made in London, the same points he made in his Bharat Jodo Yatra. And that's the point that all opposition has been making. But that's the whole point of the government, that you can say what you have or what you will within India. There is nobody stopping you. Nobody stopped you from saying it. But when you go outside the country and make those remarks on foreign soil, that's their whole premise, that you can't be saying, or cannot be saying. And I will quote, and at one of the events in London, Rahul said that the surprising thing is that the so-called defenders of democracy, which are the US, European countries, seem to be oblivious that a huge chunk of democratic model has come undone. The opposition is fighting the battle, and it is not an Indian battle alone. Actually, it is much more of a bigger battle, a battle for a huge part of democratic people. Now, this is being interpreted by the BJP as saying he's asking for an intervention from the US and European countries, and that's what the entire ruckus is about.
And let me tell you, this is another absurd and atrocious interpretation of what he said in London. A few quick points here will help. Number one, we all live in a globalized village today. I mean, our conversation, when you put it up on YouTube or whoever is watching it live, can be watched by somebody right now in Tokyo, in Australia, in the US, in Argentina, in Papua New Guinea. I mean, today, news is instantaneous. To say, therefore, that there is a foreign soil and a native soil, this has actually become irrelevant ever since the advent of social media. So I think the BJP clearly doesn't understand the fundamentals of how technology is driving the world forward. Point number two, and this is important, that if Rahul Gandhi's allegedly insulted India, What was Narendra Modi doing when he went to the Far East and said, we were ashamed to be Indians before 2014? I thought that statement was outlandish, outrageous, and totally obtuse. I mean, it basically insulted my father, who grew up here in India and was a professor. It insults the soldiers, the workers, the technocrats, the scientists, the businessmen, the workers, the farmers, everyone who's built this great country. By the way, I think in a great number of ways, it insults everyone who's watching this program. And if they're very young, it insults their parents and their grandparents and their entire ancestral history, because people from there have contributed to what India has become. So I think the larger point is this: that at the end of the day, Rahul Gandhi actually never said. I mean, this is the BJP's big nationalist plank, that he was asking foreign powers to intervene in India's domestic issues. I'll tell you why all this is complete and thorough balderdash. He was talking about an Indian democracy which is being called, by the way, by some of the most renowned, dispassionate, neutral institutions that monitor democracy. They have called India a liberal democracy. The Economist, by the way, which has been very lenient towards Mr. Modi's economic policies, has called India a flawed democracy. Others have called it the fastest rising autocratizing country in the world. And we all know that we are called an elected autocracy. There's a reason behind that. You think the
There
world
is,
doesn't
there is,
want.
I just like to interrupt here, Sanjay, because that is the Western media writing from the outside. Here, our own
Right,
leader, who aspires to the highest office in this country, is going out and making such remarks. And correct me if I'm wrong, because he did say that the leaders, the so-called defenders of democracy, and he was referring to the US and the European countries, that he was saying that you are oblivious to this, you're turning a blind eye to this. Isn't that an invitation? That's what the BJP is saying, and the government is saying, and the four leaders, four government ministers, union ministers, who've come out and said what they've said, demanding an apology from Mr. Gandhi. Why is it, how is it an extension, how is it a misinterpretation, so to speak?
well, let me tell you what I think Rahul Gandhi basically was focusing on. And, he didn't need to articulate it, because this has been in the public domain ever since our great government, which claims to be, the apostle, the mother of democracy. I call it the murder of democracy. When they raided the BBC offices, that income tax raid, following the very controversial BBC documentary that India has not been allowed to screen, there were raids on the BBC office in Delhi and in Mumbai. Now, everywhere, from political thinkers, from journalists, from many leaders, people talked about why America, that in its very templated utterances, talks about our democratic vision, our shared values. Rishi Sunak, by the way, a prime minister of UK, of a person of Indian origin, said not a single word, and everyone therefore talked about the hypocrisy. What is pretty much apparent is is the convenience with which diplomatic doublespeak happens, because everyone has to do business with our country. And yes, we are an exciting consumer market, we're an exciting labor market, and multinationals and foreigners have a deep interest in expanding their business landscape in India. And I think Rahul was basically exposing their hypocrisy. And I think that has been, by the way, a political conversation for a couple of weeks, actually. So I don't think he said anything inappropriate at all. And by the way, for the BJP to allege that he was trying to allow foreign powers to intervene, I have only one question to ask them. That, when Narendra Modi openly talked about Abki Baar Trump Sarkar, literally batting, if not campaigning for Donald Trump, during a time when the election cycle was on for the presidential elections in the US, if that was not foreign intervention, in my opinion, the ultimate diplomatic embarrassment, frankly, an international faux pas in terms of policy, if that was not foreign intervention, what is? So, I think we need to take a deep breath and a pause. You are seeing the BJP pretty much a party that wants to divert attention from the fundamental issue that is now actually caught public imagination in India, which is the Adani Group meltdown. And I can tell you this, and I'll repeat it again. The Adani Group issue is not going away anywhere, no matter how hard the BJP tries.